But once you understand it, you realize, and thanks to Judah for pointing it out, Avram Avinu sees this world, and you can understand why in antiquity, since it also seems to, in quotation marks, control the seasons, control the crops, it must be godly. V'chule, v'chule, v'chule. Then you're two steps away from drawing lines around the dots, making pictures out of them, and you have to respect them because when such and such a constellation is high in the sky, this is what happens down below. Crops grow, crops don't grow, rain comes, And Avram Avinu saw all of that and said, this is madness. No, there's one God and he's controlling the whole thing and he set the whole thing up. And all these things, the pictures and the blah, 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 that you would have thought that a hard and fast approach to being against icons and images should have meant that Avram Avinu logically would have thrown away the possibility of a solar calendar and dealt only with a lunar calendar because of the possibility that knowing what the constellations are, which have names, but they're really just the arrangement of the stars at various points, could lead you down to Avodah Zarah. And indeed, such a radical formulation did come about later on in world history in the mid 600s, 638 of the Common Era, and that's Islam. Only a lunar calendar. And they don't care at all about the solar calendar. Yeah. And you have another calendar that only goes by the solar calendar, doesn't care anything about the lunar calendar. And it's very much about icons and images and pictures and intermediaries, etc. And according to the vast majority of poskim, it falls into Avodah Zarah. Another daughter religion of Judaism. What did we do? We have a certain balance. Lunar calendar, solar calendar, but more than that, appreciating the mazalot. We are under the mazalot. A mazali Israel. That means the nation is not subject to the vagaries. It's this last week's parsha also, right? Tells him count the stars. One of the Deod and Rashi is Hashem took him beyond the constellations to see the universe, so to speak. I mean, it's a nevuah. Outside of being under the thumb of the mazal, but also a different perspective on seeing the stars. We can get that perspective today because we have satellites and different people who have gone into space themselves and telescopes. We have a different vantage point how we understand it. But you can understand why in antiquity people sacralized this and made it into a religion. It's avodah zarah. But at the same time, and this is the point I'm coming to, we do care about the mazalot because the mazalot are what reflect for us the connection between the lunar and the solar calendar. I have one more thing to say about this, which is this. The sun governs for us day and night, and the moon day and night. But the phases of the moon, that's the months. And the suns, S-U-N-S, which are stars all over the place, actually help us understand the solar calendar and the year. There are 12 mazalot divided into the sky. They could have been divided otherwise, but that was the convention or that's the tradition, whatever you want to go with, depending on your belief system, even as a believing Jew, how that came about. It doesn't matter right now. The point is there are mazalot. Chazal recognized mazalot, and they're not claiming they have a koach, Chalila. Hashem is running things. But when the sun rises in the spring, in Chodesh Nisan, the constellation Tleh, the lamb, rises with it at the same time. It's not visible, therefore, but it means that the rising is the rising of the constellation of Tleh. That's Chodesh Nisan. At the beginning of the Chodesh, if you drew an imaginary line in the sky, at the beginning of the month, day 1, 2, 3, the sun and the beginning of constellation Tleh are lined up, and they come over the horizon at the same time. But 10 days into the month, constellation Tleh has already come up partially, and then the sun hits it further along. Now, again, we know there's these vast different distances, but think about it flat, like you're looking at a screen. Mm-hmm. It's as if the screen of the constellations is moving every day. If you took the same picture with your special camera that could see through the sun, a special, radial telescope or something, you'd be able to see the sun and against the backdrop of it, the Tleh. And as it moves, by the time you get day 30 or day 29, day 30 of the month of Nisan, the Mazel Tleh, same Mazel, now is almost all risen above the horizon, and the sun rises with the last little bit of it. You still can't see it. How do we know it's there? Because we can see what's at night. We know we know what the 12 constellations are. They have like snapshots of each one, right? So they know what was at night right before it. Whatever comes before Tle. What is it? It's Dagim. Pisces. So Pisces comes, and when Pisces is still in the sky, right? It's in the eastern sky, just before dawn. When dawn is happening, it goes, now it's the lamb is next, the Tle. Mazel Tle goes, after Tle, you get to the next one, and the next one. What's Chodesh Tishrei? Moznayim, the scales, right? So the scales at the beginning of the month, it's the beginning of Moznayim. And every night, snapshot, same exact moment, or every day, it's not night, every morning at sunrise, that's what's rising. That's what month it is. That's what month it is. And in a certain way, it's going across the sky with the sun every time that month. You follow? And there's 360 degrees, 12 mazalot, which means how many degrees per, right? Just do the math. 12 mazalot, 360 divided by 12 is 30. 30 days in a month. Ta-da! That's how it works. And when you understand this, okay, now what's happening? Now back to our regular scheduled programming. We're going to need this for tonight, so there's not really a digression. There's not only the vector of the fact that, and that's what prompted this whole discussion, for those online. What prompted the discussion is the moon doesn't seem to have moved the whole night. It's like staying in one place. Well, it's not that it's staying in one place. It is moving across the sky. The perception of it is much, much harder to see because there's more of the moon. So it seems, the larger the object, seems like it's moving slower than it actually is, right? When it's tiny, it seems to move faster. It's not actually moving faster. The point is, how long will it be visible until moonset? I'm using the directions are exact. It's going like this across the sky from east to west. And in the beginning of the month, the sun rises and the moon follows, which is why you don't see it in the morning. And at the end of the month, the opposite is true. The moon is trailing the sun. Sorry, I said it backwards. Beginning of the month, the sun comes up before the moon comes up before the sun, right? But as you get to the midpoint, the way it works is that the moon is going to be in the sky wholly visible for a very long period of time. That's what we saw when we were reading through the moon sets. When you get to the end of the month, the sun has passed it and is now ahead of it. Again, obviously everything's circling, so it's every day like that. And the sun goes down and the moon is following after the sun. The beginning of a new month is that just after the sun has set, that's when you could see a sliver of the moon for a very brief period of time. Right? If it's too high in the sky, it's invisible. If it's too low, it's beneath the horizon. So there's that sweet spot, you could call it, where you're going to be able to see some sliver of the new moon. That's why it's so confusing. That's what the Gemara is talking about. I haven't even opened the Gemara yet. We're still doing the Kochavim. Judy, wait so patiently. I'm sorry. Please.
Correct you. It's taleh.
Taleh. Toda.
Taleh is the verb to hang up.
But betet, you don't say tle, it's
When
taleh.
you say you can
Ata Yisraeli, ani lo.
it's
I defer to you.
taleh.
I'm going to argue.
Taleh.
Toda.
Taleh.
Thank you.
Secondly, the Gemara already knew that the mazalot have no control because in the Bateh Knesset, like Bet Alpha, is the
Yeah, the mosaics.
they
They're
have
beautiful.
the
Yeah.
mazalot and the four seasons in the four
Right,
corners.
right.
In the winter, there's somebody
Uh-huh,
blowing the
yeah.
wind, etc. Mashiach Baruch.
Yeah.
But they permitted it. I mean, that's
No, that's my point. Is that Chazal did not give up on the idea of the mazalot. We're not. This is not a discussion about astrology. This is a discussion about astronomy. And in order to keep right, astrology is there's some predictive force, etc. Same itzdagninut shelcha, said Hashem to Avram Avinu. Leave your astrological calculations. Right? I have what to say about astrology another time. What it was, what it became, how it does or it doesn't impact the world. It's essentially, from a scientific perspective, it's discredited. But what was it? Was everyone just out to lunch? They all just made stuff up? Or was there something to it? I owe Malcolm Gladwell that because it's something that he wrote in one of his books, but we'll get to it after. It has to do with hockey and Malcolm Gladwell. We'll get to another time. Anyway, I know what's your appetite, but we got to learn Gemara. Yes.
Where did it come from? Mazal is luck and Muslim.
The word mazal is translated as luck in as much as it's related to astrological signs and astronomical signs, which are the same thing, but the type of meaning that's ascribed to it. So, you know, you have good luck means you have a good constellation. The influence of the stars. That's avodah zarah. We don't do that. But siman tov umazal tov means that the time that we're in now should be an auspicious time. A good thing happens. It should be an auspicious time. We have Moadim and Zmanim. We have Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, we have Chanukah. So we say it's a certain, it's a good time. Maybe other good things will happen.
I think that's why. When we do Kiddush Levana, we say Siman Tov U'Mazel.
Exactly why.
Exactly why.
It's exactly why. Because we're talking about the time that we're in. Should be a good sign and a good constellation. We're not saying that these things have power. We're dafka saying that we recognize that the time that we're in, it should be a good time.
Yeah.
But what I'm telling you is the core, when you analyze what is time, how do people who don't have clocks know what time of the year it is in a place that is temperate enough that you don't always need to go put on a sweater and light the fire outside of the tent, as the determination, but actually it's more temperate climate. You can tell by the stars. The Mesopotamians, the Chaldeans, this was that they were very, very well known for because they lived in big, open, flat spaces. So they didn't have obstruction. That's why they're building Migdal Bavel. I don't know if it was supposed to be an observatory. I always sometimes wonder if it started that way and just went off the rails. I don't know. But certainly the fact that it's flat and open, it's a bik'ah, means you can see wide range of stars at night, and they're moving every night. And there seems to be some repetition of them. So what's it about? How do you keep track of them? They're little dots. They mean nothing. They're zeros and ones. So what do you do from the zeros and ones? You make a picture. And you draw lines between them. But nitgalgalu advarim, the meaning of understanding how the world works, became the understanding of who makes the world works. And that's where it went into avodat kochavim umazalot, akum. And that's why the Rambam writes avodat kochavim umazalot. But it's just crucial. And what I want to show you tonight, which the first page, that's classic black and white. But then you get to the special colored photos, which we're going to get to right now. And I'll put it on the screen. Oh, Jeff, I didn't put it on the. I'll put it in my. I'll upload it right now to my computer, and you'll get it. You'll have it on the screen also. Sorry. I know. Well, I'm sorry. That's what happens. By the way, this is a very complicated sugya, in case it wasn't apparent. But what you take away from it, hopefully, is much more Magadlu Masech Hashem and understanding how Chazal understood this whole system and how it impacts what Kiddush HaChodesh actually is and what it's meant to represent. I mean, it's a kiyum of a mitzvah, but it's also the appreciation for the nexus between the fact that there's a world and it seems to work on its own, but Hashem's telling us, no, you'll be Makadesh the Chodesh. And when you are Makadesh the Chodesh, you will have some shlita, some control over time. I gave that to you. And there's a tremendous idea in that, in terms of our connection. I'll put it on the screen when we need it. Okay. So we have to review the Gemara. Remember what we're actually up to in the Gemara is, how do you check the witnesses? There's 5 questions we ask the witnesses, and the first 2 questions seem to be almost the same question.
Which staff?
On Chav Gimel and Bet, I'm going back. We have to drill down, because in order to get to the next piece, you have to see this. So the Gemara Chav Gimel and Bet, Ketzah Bokim to Edim Zug Sheba Rishon Bodkin Moto Rishon Amachnis Min Agal Shebahen VeOmrim Lo Emor Ketzah Ritel Levana. Tell us how you saw the moon. 5 questions about it. Question 1: Lifnei Achama or La'achar Achama? Was it in front of the sun or after or behind the sun? Litzfona to the north, or Lidroma or to the south? Kamei Gavoa, how tall was it? Question 3. Question 4: Ula'an Hayanota? Which direction did it lean in? V'kama Hayarachav? And how wide was it? Imamar Lifnei Achama Lo Amar Klum. If he said it's before the sun, it means nothing. What is before the sun? Working assumption, which we're going to go back to refine and understand. This is what we said last time. Before the sun means, I saw the moon and the sun was chasing the moon.
Mm-hmm.
But just think about that logically. How could the sun be, if the sun is chasing the moon, how could you see the moon? You wouldn't be able to see it. It would mean moonset is before sunset. So if the person said that, they didn't say anything. They're clearly lying. They made it up. Or they're just dead wrong. But we're going to see soon, some of the Rishonim are going to understand that question and answer in a more refined way, because the question itself begs the question, which is, who's actually crazy enough to think that? How foolish could the person be? It's not possible to believe such a thing. So why would that have been a question that could be answered incorrectly?
Email me when the recording's available.
I'm sorry?
What is meant by Kamahaya Gavoa? I know the word-
How high in the sky was it? In the sky, meaning you couldn't have seen it straight up. That's impossible. But did you see it? And we talked about this last time also. There's a certain band in the sky, imaginary band in the sky, where you could actually see the moon. Higher than that, it's just not. There's no way. It's just going to be. It's going to be too faded because it's too far away from the sun. Too low, it's too close to the horizon, and the glow from the sun is blotting it out. So there's some band of sky, some height off the ground. There's a question of angles, but they don't know. They're not asking people like how many angles off the ground was it, right? What the angle was it? They want to know what's the band in which you saw it. How could you guesstimate how many objects could you have put from where you're standing, adding up to where the moon was? That's the question. And how wide is it? So what did it look like? Was it like this big? Was it like this big? How wide was it? So imamar lifnei achama lo amar klum. Fine. V'achar kach machnis l'sheni. They bring in the second guy. They ask him. Inutzu divrei mechuvanim edut kayamet. Ushakol zugot sholonatan rosh dvarim lo shayit tzrichim lahem el kadesh lo yetzav pachi nefesh b'shvil sheyu regilim lavo. We read this already. So just said it very quickly. If it checks out, both witnesses did the right thing. We still pro forma ask all the witnesses who showed up in Yerushalmi. Otherwise, they're going to feel bad. Or at the Beit Din, it's not always in Yerushalmi. Come to the Beit Din, they feel bad. We wasted our time. Because why did we come here? They didn't need us. Ask them anyway. Say, go home and they got a sticker that they spoke to the Beit Din. Well, I spoke to the Beit Din. They called me and they interviewed me. Okay. So that's what we had seen last time. Now the Gemara. Hainu lifnei chama, hainu letzafona. I mean, isn't the first question, if you said before the moon, don't you mean to the north? And hainu la'achar chama, hainu lidroma. If you said it's after the moon, don't you mean it's to the south? Now, clearly the Gemara understands something different here than what I just said moments ago about lifnei and acharei. The Gemara here seems to understand tzafon and darom as being before and after the sun. We have to understand what is that referring to. Well, I mentioned previously, and I'll try to say it in a simpler way this time, at the time of the equinox, 6 hours of daylight, 6 hours of darkness, 6 a.m. sunrise, 6 p.m. sunset, quote unquote, a perfect day. There's a fall equinox and a spring equinox. On those days, the sun will rise at exactly the eastern sky, and the sun will set in the western sky due west, like literally on a compass, 90 degrees and 270 degrees. Done. That's it. And the moon will rise from 90 degrees and set at 270 degrees. Exactly in line. That's what the equinox means.
Spring and the fall.
Spring and the fall, two of them.
Yeah.
Twice in the year, we get to what's called the solstice. The solstice is the longest day in the summer, longest day of the year in the summer.
June 21st and December.
And December, shortest day of the year. Right. On the longest day of the year, the sun is actually not rising exactly in the east. It's actually rising more in the east-northeast. It's not rising in the north, but you can see this. It's a little bit to the north. It's actually at its farthest point to the north, and it's going to set not in the western sky at 270 degrees, but it's going to set in the northwestern sky in the summer. Mm-hmm. You don't notice this because no one thinks about it. We don't deal with it so often, but you'll see. And in the winter, and we're now in the winter, it's from the 90-degree point, it's now due south. Sunrise is actually somewhere between 90 degrees was September, what was it, 21? Yeah. So after September 21, the sun and the moon are actually rising this way. South, I'm doing it actually. That's the Lake Michigan, south. It starts to go, it's never going to be rising in the south sky, but it's going to start, and as the winter comes more and more, it's rising more and more and more in the south sky. And it is setting also more and more in the west-southwest. Now, you understand why the day is longer and shorter? We live in the northern hemisphere. So in the northern hemisphere, when the sun is rising more toward the north, so it is shining for a longer period of time because it has a wider arc that it's going to go on. But when it's in the wintertime, the sun, which we have described already previously, since we're in the northern hemisphere, there is no actual 12 p.m. where the sun is mamash above your head.
Zenith.
It's really at its zenith, always a little bit angled toward the south. At the equator, it is, but in the northern hemisphere, a little bit to the south. When the sun rises now in the winter and it's rising more on the south, just imagine someone made a rainbow arc from the south sky to the south sky, but east southeast on one side and east and west southwest on the other side. It's a shorter arc. The sun is in the sky for a shorter period of time. In the summer, it has to go from the northern, not actual north, but a little farther north, still in the eastern sky, a little farther north, has to go all the way up to be, so to speak, in the south part, to come all the way back down. It's a bigger band. And that's why in the southern hemisphere, when we have summer, they have winter, because it's underneath. It's not really, but on that side, it's the exact opposite. The arc of the sun is longer days, spends higher up in the sky. It's warmer, lower arc, sharper angle up and down. It's going to be a shorter day, a colder day. That's what happens. That's how it works. Okay? Now, okay. Having said this now, the Gemara says, okay, when you just said to me now that what we're probably dealing with is a situation where we have, where am I here in my notes, and pages, where we have this, before the moon means, before the sun means to its north, and after the sun means to its south, is because there's meant to be, according to Rashi at least, some kind of discrepancy between the sun's arc and the moon's arc. I told you that on the day of the equinox, everything rises and sets at 90 degrees. But when it's not the equinox, when it's moving toward the solstice, you can picture it. I'm just using this for purpose of demonstration. When it's the spring equinox and everything is like this, the arc starts to turn this way. Only when it goes like this, it actually really ends up looking and feeling like it's embracing like this and becomes hotter. Up and down. Now, the moon is not exactly in line with that thing that the sun is doing. The moon ends up being a little bit off. How much off? So that it's actually perceptible at the sunset time, and that's what you have here. Lifnei chama hanlitzvona means that wherever the sun is, when it's setting, the moon, according to this at least, may be a little bit over to the north, farther north. Now, it's imaginary lines, because the sun and the moon, they have to be setting at different times in order to see what's happening. So the sun goes down, and then the moon a little bit after it. If it's la'achar chama, so the sun's going to go down, and the moon is maybe a little bit off to the side. That's one of the theories about what this Gemara actually means. It's kind of mind-boggling, I'll grant you. Rashi thinks tzfona and deroma means relative to the sun. And he explains this in longhand, very challenging language in both over here on at the top on the Mishnah, and then on Chav Daled, he has another very long one. Kan b'morachama, kan b'morach. So I'm kind of summarizing. The new moon is always, according to Rashi, he thinks the new moon is always in the southwest sky. Others disagree with this. Others actually refute it and say that Rashi was mistaken. Art Scroll says, I had to look it up because I couldn't resist. What I was going to say, we're too feeble to truly understand what Rashi must have meant.
All right.
Beseder?
Politically correct.
Politically correct, you could say, in an Orthodox context. So in the summer, again, the shift, according to Rashi, the whole idea is the shift here about lifnei and acharei is that in the summer, the sun sets in west northwest, or in the west itself, somewhere over there, and therefore the moon will be a little bit to the south of it. The moon does not have as wide an arc; it's closer to the median line of east and west, so it'll be a little bit south of it. In the winter, the sun sets west southwest, further to the south side there, and it'll be farther south of the moon. The moon will end up being north of it when it sets. So based on Rashi, it seems like most months place the moon actually south of the sun. Again, in the sky, the moon being on the south side of the sun in that western sky. It's all relative, right? Because you have west, but then you have northwest and you have southwest. So in between, you have all sorts of degrees and numbers you could fill in for where it goes. The question against Rashi is that the moon really follows the sun, and the moon isn't always in the southwest sky, but rather in the summer, the sun sets west northwest, and in the winter, it's west southwest, and fall and spring, again, it sets in the west, and the moon follows. So Ibn Ezra has a sefer, Rabbeinu Avraham ben Moshe Ibn Ezra. We call him Ibn Ezra, Rabbeinu Avraham Ibn Ezra, but it's really Moshe ben Moshe Ibn Ezra, has a sefer called the Sefer HaIbor. And he writes in the Sefer, V'hinei hiskima data geonim. The Geonim believed. Ki la'olam halavana near 8 b'keren dromit ma'aravid. The new moon is always seen in the southwest sky. Ve'ein ze emet. They're wrong. Ki mare ha'ayin yakrishem, because the observation of my eye contradicts them. So another possible theory. This theory, some say, basically relates to the Meiri. The Meiri says maybe north and south is actually somehow connected to the west itself. And it means sunset is between Nisan and Tishrei, that's in the spring, till the fall, is always going to be west-northwest, somewhere between 270 degrees and 359 degrees, somewhere in there, always. It's never going to be closer to 3. It's not going to get past the halfway point between 270 and 359, but it's somewhere in that band. And in the winter rather, between Tishrei and the following Nisan, it's west-southwest. And it sounds like the Meiri is saying this, but there's a question against the Meiri as well, which is that the question in the Mishnah is about the sun and the moon. It's not about the direction west. It's about the relation between the sun and the moon to each other. So it's confusing. And that brings us to option number 3, which is the Yerushalmi. That's the page you have here. I forgot to print the Yerushalmi so you could see it inside, but you'll listen. I'm sorry. I just neglected to. I made a photocopy of that one from the Gemara. Everything else is scanned, and I'll put that on in a minute. So here we go. So the question that's being asked, is it to the north? You asked them, is it to the north? Is it to the south? Is it before? Is it after? Is actually as follows. The question is, if the point of moonset is north or south of where sunset happened a short time earlier. I'm going to show you right now. Look at the beginning of the Yerushalmi. It's the same Mishnah, top of the page. I'm on page 1. Halacha Daled. It's exactly the same Mishnah we just read, because the Mishnah between Bavli and Yerushalmi is constant. Bavli and Yerushalmi are 2 explanations of the Mishnah, unpackings of Mishnah. One,
is that it?
Ketzat Bodkin. It's exactly what you have in your Mishnah on Chav Gimel and Bet. It's exactly what you have here in the Parak Sheni Halacha Daled of the Yerushalmi. Exact same Mishnah. No reason to reread it. Okay, now look at the Gemara in the Yerushalmi. And the Gemara starts off, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Afilu Toa Shivatoin. Even a person who would make the dumbest mistakes in the world. Eino Toa B'davar Hazeh. Lifnei Hachama, La'achar Hachama. There's no way anyone would ever make a mistake. It was before the sun or after the sun. Meaning he originally seems to understand Lifnei and Acharei as, did the sun go down and then the moon? Or did the moon go down and then the sun? Well, the second possibility is nonsense. It can't happen. If the moon and the sun are up together, you don't see the moon, just like you don't see the stars. It's blotted out. It's going to shine on it. The moon's going to set, and then the sun's going to set. There's no way anyone would make a mistake like that. That's what he says. That's what he claims. That's what he claims. And then the Gemara goes on and just points out here, Lo tzurcha, di lo pigmata, lifnei chama, pigmata la'achar chama. So you say, no, this, what we're really asking about is, what was the concave or convex shape of the moon is really the question at hand. So here's the moon, the sun went down. You saw the moon. What? A pagima is the deficiency. But the deficiency here means the part you don't see. So the moon was setting after the sun. Was it like that? Or was it like that? But like this is impossible. If the light source is here, then how could it be shining that way? It's a ball, the moon. So clearly, if the light source is here, shining up on it, it's going to be on this side. So that's maybe what it was. Tani bar kapara, tartoi lifnei chama la'achar chama, pigmata lifnei cham achama, pigmata la'achar chama. Bar Kapara has a bit of a different view over here. Bar Kapara has an approach here in the Yerushalmi where Bar Kapara says that actually, essentially, he's cholik on Rabbi Yochanan. He thinks that actually there's two contradictory statements that you could make in reply to this idea of tzfona and deroma. And where are those? It's a longish kind of Gemara. You have to use the Tosefta to figure this out. I was looking in the back of the Masifta Gemara. There's actually like a book appended to Masechet Rosh Hashanah where you're going to see those diagrams in a minute. And he quotes from the Gemara where I gave you two lines, two gray lines next to one, next to page number. So you see what it says litzfona lidroma? It's the second of the second lineup of the last of the narrow lines. Second up from the bottom. Narrow lines. Litzfona lidroma.
Yes.
It tanoi tane litzfona dvarav kayamin. It tanoi tane lidroma dvarav kayamin. There's one limud that says that if the person said, oh, when they were asked the question, litzfona or lidroma, did you see it to the south, to the north, or to the south? And yet, when they said north, they answered yes, it was to the north. It works. And there's another limud that says, when they said, oh, it's to the south, it works. So the Gemara, what? How could those both be true? They're totally contradictory. So the Gemara says, Manda amal litzfona dvarav kayamin min tevet ve'ad tamuz. From the dead of winter to the heat of summer. What's the dead of winter in Tevet? Tkufat Tevet. Tkufat Tevet, another way of saying it is the winter solstice. And Tammuz is Tkufat Tammuz, the summer solstice. The two extremes, shortest day, longest day. In that time, the person who would say, I saw it to the north, you have to understand what that means, they were correct. Manda Amali Droma, person who said, I saw it to the south, that's mean Tammuz v'ad Tevet, from the summer solstice till the winter solstice. So what the Gemara has done here basically is shown that there is something about the vector of going north and south. And the question, first question, did you see the moon, before the sun or after the sun? That has to do with maybe concavity, right? Where the light is shining. But the second question, to the north or to the south, means where did you see it in the sky? Well, what month is it when we were having this meeting? So if the person said, I saw, and that's going to have to do now, what we're seeing inside, with the relative location of the sun and the moon that we just talked about. But I want to show you how subtle the whole thing is and why it becomes so complicated.
The Earth is on an axis. They understood all.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's
It's
unbelievable.
unbelievable. They understood it. Turn to page 2. Now turn to page 2. And I'll put it on the screen. Hold on. Courtesy of the Masifta Gemara. Beautiful job. I'm looking at image Pei Daled. It's on the top of page 2. And then we'll look at Pei Hey. So Pei Daled, I've explained to you what you're looking at. Okay. So because it's a little bit confusing, but I'm going to explain it to you. Okay. Hold on one second. Okay. Now, there's actually a person standing. You can hardly see him in the photocopy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's a person standing at the crossroads, right? Yeah. So the person standing at the crossroads has a sign behind him where everything to the right, that's south, and everything to the left is north. And the person standing right now facing the western sky.
So he said to the right of him or to his.
Well, he's looking at us. So in where we are, we're like in the west looking at him. And that's why the sun is closer to us, because it's showing you an image of sunset. You're looking at sunset. You see the sun is at the horizon. So the sun at the horizon is the western sky. He's looking at the sunset. The man, you can't really see his face, but trust me, standing at a crossroads on the east-west axis, and he's looking west. If he's looking west, then to his right is north, and to his left is south. And if you notice in this picture, just what we were talking about before, the band of the sun, you see how it's drawn, very, very amazing how they drew it. They did a great job. You see how the sun, based on what I just explained, in the If you were going into the photo, inside it, in this diagram, that's sunrise would be behind him, obviously. But you see that the line doesn't go straight up and down. It's curved. It's like it's leaning a little bit. You follow? There's a red line. It's very faint. There's a red band, right? That red band is the path of the sun. That's the track the sun is on, if you want to call it that. So it rises in the east and it goes toward the southern sky and then it sets in the west. You with me? This is a mind-bending thought experiment kind of a thing, but explains the whole thing out.
The band goes around, where it says Dagim, Delay, Gedi.
Okay, now around that, those are the constellations. We learned that already. We just talked about it again tonight. Those are the constellations, and I remind you again, the month that it is the constellation that, if you could see it, is in the background, blotted out by the light of the sun rising with the sun. And each constellation gets basically 30 degrees worth of the sky. There's a 360 degrees is a circle. There are 12 mazalot. Each mazal, 360 divided by 12, is 30. So every mazal, 30 and 30 and 30, 12 times equals a year.
Yeah.
It's not really a year, as you know, because really a solar year is 365, which is why we have a discrepancy, which is why there's all sorts of things. There's 5 days left over between the actual cycle that we have constructed and the reality astronomically, but I won't go down that road again. I spoke about it on Rosh Hashanah, again on Sukkot, and I was worried too many people were like, what are you talking about, Rabbi? I have no idea what you're saying, but that's neither here nor there. So, but it was this was what I was exploring this theme. So at this time of the year, what you're looking at here, this is between Tevet and Tammuz, Makom Shkia Rachama Be Tevet L'Tammuz. So the sun and the moon between Tevet and Tammuz are between the constellations Gedi and Sartan. Gedi and Sartan. Now, what does that mean? So I'm going to try to show you right now. So you'll read it and you'll say, oh, okay, now I got it. Look at the picture. You see there's, let's see, what could I show you that you would know? Look at the top right-hand side. It says Dagim is fish.
Yeah.
In English, people call it, or Latin, they call it Pisces. That's Chodesh Adar. Next to it, you can't see it because you just see the hay sticking out. That's Taleh. That's Nisan. You can't see it.
We should have a smart board in there.
Huh?
We should have a smart board.
Yeah.
On the bottom.
You can't. I know it's like almost impossible to see it, right? But believe me when I say it's there. By the way, we learned all this back on where was it? It was pages and pages ago where we saw about all the mazalot, the names, and they were mentioned, and we were saying like, this is really weird. Why are these names being mentioned? But that's why, because that was what they understood. We still understand now about the pictures. And it was way back when. I'm not going to find exactly where it is now. I'm too overtired to find it. But that's how it goes, right? You could see in the picture, Teomim is showing. Teomim, twins, is actually Chodesh Sivan. In Mazalot, it's called Teomim. The next one, Gemini. Then comes Sartan, Chodesh Tammuz. Cancer, yeah. After that comes the Mazel Aryeh, right? The Mazel Aryeh is a lion. After that, a lion comes the Betula, right? I forgot to mention, by the way, ER is the shore, Mazel shore. Then comes the Betula. You can see on the bottom there is Elul. See on the bottom left-hand side. After the Betula comes Moznaim, which you can't see right now. Moznaim is Tishrei. Easy to remember because scales, judgment. Akrav, that's what we're in now, is Mar Cheshvan. Keshet, the bow, that's Kislev. Gedi is Tevet. Deli is Shvat. And what's Adar? We're back up to Dagim. This picture says that sunset is happening at a moment when High in the sky is Sartan, is in the backdrop there in the back. But setting with the sun, in other words, moving with the sun right now is Gedi. So if the sun is setting and the sun, again, the whole time for that day, it's going to be following and tracking that constellation during the month. A new month means, so to speak, it's as if the backdrop behind the sun has moved to another new backdrop behind the sun. Sun rises, sun sets with one backdrop for 30 days. It's moving within that backdrop of 30 days. It's 30 degrees. Then comes the next set, the next set. Are you with me? Or did I lose everybody here? I'm worried I lost you. So it's super complicated. This sunset, I could tell you right now, this is in the winter. How do I know? Because the sunset means the sunrise also at that point in the year is happening during the constellation of Gedi. Constellation Gedi is Chodesh Tevet. It's Kufat Tevet. Very short day. And between that and as we keep going, it'll go all the way around. Between Gedi and Sartan, where Gedi is the most south and Sartan is the most north. You see the man, the little man is standing in the crossroads. He's looking at us. So to his left, he's looking at us. So it's kind of backwards, right? Mm-hmm. To his left, which is to the right in the picture, that's south. And to his north, which is to his right, which is to the left of our picture, that's where Sartan is. So you see Gedi is on the south, to the farthest to the south, because it's on an angle. The earth is flat. I mean, not really, so don't take my word for it, but for our purposes, flat. But the sun, the whole thing with the sun and the constellations is going like this. Not like this, like this. And when this is happening, therefore, because of the nature of the band, it's going around in a circle, Sartan is rising when Gedi is setting. Sartan is the first thing to be seen in the sky. The constellation of Tammuz is ruling the sky, but it has no power, so to speak, because it doesn't have the sun with it. I said that, deliberately, because that's how you go down the path. Like, what do you mean power? It's not have any power anyway. That's how the ancients made these mistakes. That's their Avodah Zarah. But the point of this exercise is like this. Look at image Pei Daled. In image Pei Daled, you see the sun is exactly sunset. If you look into Mazel Dli, you'll see there's a moon there. It's very small. It's a little black circle with a little sliver of white. You can see it in the scan better than you can. You see it, Jeff? This is the moon. This is the sun. The sun is at the horizon setting. And just then, you look a little bit up. Oh, there's the moon in the sky. That's sunset.
Is that the circle?
Yeah, exactly. Under the Lamed Dli. Now, a few minutes later, look at the bottom of page 2. Bottom of page 2, because again, this is like it's actually the end of Tevet, and it's probably the beginning of Shvat, because it's just on the line, you notice now, between Gedi and Dli. Mm-hmm. So now this is, if the top of the page, Pei Daled, image Pei Daled is actually, I don't know, 30 minutes, is sunset itself. Then Pei Hey on the bottom is 30 or 40 minutes after sunset. Now look where the sun is. It's beneath the horizon. There's no sun anymore. But you see where the moon is? It's exactly on the horizon. That's Moonset. Mm-hmm. This must be the beginning of the month. We also know it's the beginning of the month because in this diagram, the sun is crossing through a lighter blue band, which is arbitrary. It's made up, obviously. It's between Gedi and Dli. That light blue band means I'm changing from Gedi to Dli. Or as we would say, I'm changing from Chodesh Tevet to Chodesh Shvat. Because Tevet was Gedi and Shvat was Dli. So says this opinion in the Yerushalmi, which by the way is not just the Yerushalmi. Rabbi Hanano holds this way, the Baal Hamar holds this way, the Meiri holds this way, the Ibn Ezra holds this way, is that when we talk about north and south, you know what we're talking about? Look at, in this picture, Pei Hey, you see there's a white arrow, Nikudat Shkiat HaShemesh. Now the sun is not there anymore. The sun is already beneath the horizon. Long time. But you see where the moon is? You see how the sun, the Nikudat Shkiat HaShemesh means the sun's not there anymore. The sun's already beneath the horizon a long time. But at moonset, it's actually off from the exact spot in terms of degrees of where the sun went down. How much is it off? Hard to know. But one thing we know for sure, it is in this picture to the left. The moon is to the left of where the sun went down. You see that? Now, right and left is just because it's a picture. The man standing is looking west. And if he's looking west, then it turns out the point where the sun went down was farther south than where the moon went down. Again, because he's facing west. And if you're facing west, right, then east is behind you, which means north is there and south is there. So north is there and south is there. So he's standing facing west. So he's thinking to himself, if I'm facing west, east is behind me, right? So then, what's it called? South is there and north is there. So he's saying, oh, in the wintertime, the point where the sun hits the horizon is going to be a little bit off from how the guy's standing to the left of where the moon is going to come down on the horizon. Or to say it differently, the moon will be a little bit farther north than the sun. The sun will end up being more in the south sky even than the moon. So the moon is going down. It's wintertime. The moon is going down here. But 20, 30 minutes or even an hour earlier, where did the sun go down? Not over here. Over here. Now we're up to the question of Tzafona or Daroma, based on where the sun is versus the moon. And if you turn the page to the top of the next page, the exact opposite situation. The opposite situation. Let me change the page over here. Picture Pevav. This is the sunset between Tammuz and Tevet. In Chodesh Tammuz, the sun is within the band of the sky of 30 degrees, called Sartan. After Sartan, this is Rosh Chodesh Av right here, because it's the end of Sartan, the beginning of Aryeh. I'm looking, by the way, on page 3, image on the top, Pevav. You see it? Image Pevav. When you look at it, you say, okay. The sun is setting. The man is at the crossroads. He's still looking at us. He's looking south. He's looking at, west. He's looking at us. The sun goes down. That's Sartan. And you see there's a little sliver. That's the moon. Again, right under it'll be under the Resh of Aryeh. There's like a moon there. It's still above the horizon. But then Pei Zayin. Now look at the Nekudat Shkiat HaShemesh. It's to the left of where the moon is. Or to say it differently, in his world, this guy's world, the sun has set actually farther north than the east-west axis. By the way, you see there's a white line that goes right through the whole globe?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
That is the east-west axis. Look how far over to the north it is. Yeah. And when you go back to the other one, you see that, right? You see that the east-west axis it's different. You see?
Yeah.
It's on the south side of the east-west axis, the whole thing, sun and moon. On this side, it's on the opposite side, on the northern side of the sun of the east-west axis. Mm-hmm. And the Nekudat Shkiat HaShemesh now is farther to the north even than the moon. So to use our example here in Skokie, Illinois, the Nekudat Shkiat HaShemesh in the summer is going to be in the northern west sky like that, and the moon is going to be moved over a little closer to the east-west axis. Mm-hmm. That's what's being asked of this witness. That's what's being asked. You saw the process. So where was when the moon came down, where was it relative to where the sun came down? Depending on the season, they're going to be on opposite sides of each other. And the crazy part, the hard part to understand is the sun and the moon are themselves both going between south and north in the western sky when they set. And when you understand this, okay. So now we understand there's something happening over here involving the constellations, which impacts our ability to understand where the sun and the moon are, and when and how they come down to Earth. Setting. Mind blowing. But this is the Gemara. I didn't make this up. This is the Rishonim understanding the Gemara. This is the Yerushalmi, the Bavli, and this is what they're asking the witnesses. So you walk out of here tonight, you think, I need a degree in astronomy just to be Mekadosh HaChodesh. Right, that's what the Chachamim have. That's exactly what they have. That's what they're asking these detailed, nuanced questions Because did you really see it? Or maybe you didn't see it. Maybe you saw a sliver of a cloud that was on the horizon somewhere and you thought you saw it, but you didn't really see it. All right. Especially if you're in, I don't know, Netanya or something. So you're on the coast, so you're open.
Yeah.
You think it's easier to see? Not so fast. There's clouds all the way out on the horizon. Maybe it's impacting ability to see things. Whew.
By the way, I
Okay.
think
Exhausting.
By the way, I think the daf.
Lila,